The last time people in Wales voted for their devolved parliament, David Cameron was Prime Minister, Brexit hadn't happened, and COVID-19 didn't even exist. Since 2016, it's fair to say a lot has changed. But will that be reflected in next Thursday's elections? In the 22 years since the first meeting of the Welsh Parliament, Labour has always been in power here, although not necessarily with a majority. First Minister Mark Drakeford is keen to capitalise on his record dealing with the pandemic, but some say that Labour's approach in this campaign has been too modest.
Well, I think we belong in the middle because that is where the great bulk of opinion rests in Wales. The Conservative Party in Wales does not believe in Wales. It believes in handing Wales back to Westminster. Plaid Cymru doesn't believe in the United Kingdom. It would sever us from our friends or relations or fellow workers elsewhere in the UK. It is only the Labour Party that believes in a strong Wales, in a successful United Kingdom. And far from falling through the cracks, actually that represents the great bulk of opinion here in Wales.
In the last 4 years, the Conservatives have gained ground in Wales. In the 2019 general election, they won 6 Welsh seats off Labour. Now, Labour needs to win back some of those votes, just to maintain their current standing in the Welsh Parliament.
I think to match our result in 2016 would be a fantastic result for Labour. As I said, we started the campaign with opinion polls telling us that Labour would win only 22 seats. To match our 2016 election result, particularly in the current circumstances, I think would be a very high watermark for us.
Because UK parliamentary seats in Wales share the same boundaries with those in the Welsh Parliament, comparisons between voting patterns are possible. In the 2016 Welsh Assembly election, Labour held a decisive lead over the Conservatives, with 27 seats to the Conservatives' 6 and Plaid Cymru's 6. But fast forward to the 2019 general election, and the Conservatives surged to 14 seats, with Labour losing out. Labour are still expected to make a stronger showing than the Conservatives this time. The latest voting forecasts have them a good distance ahead, but not enough for a majority. Because of the gains they made in 2019, the Conservatives should be improving on their 2016 result. Anything less would be a failure.
We're fighting every constituency and every regional ballot. We're getting a very good response indeed. It's all about building on 2019, I accept that, and that's why our strong economic roadmap out of the COVID crisis is an important part of our platform.
Although the polls show people in Wales think highly of First Minister Mark Drakeford's handling of the pandemic, Andrew Davies says there isn't much to celebrate.
Let's not forget that Wales has the highest death rate of any part of the United Kingdom, regrettably. That's hardly Labour and the Welsh Labour First Minister keeping Wales safe. Let's also remember, through the strength of the Union of the United Kingdom, £6 billion of money has come into Wales to support the fight against the COVID crisis. Don't forget, Plaid and Labour would have had us part of the European medicines agencies, which would have had us in the European vaccination programme, rather than actually this successful UK vaccination programme that is opening up the economy. On all the big questions, they have taken the wrong choices.
But this election is a 3-horse race. Plaid Cymru may hold the balance of power, hoping to capitalise on a small growth in support for Welsh independence.
Support is increasing. Indeed, according to some opinion polls, now even a majority of Labour voters support independence. And support for independence in Wales now is higher than it was in Scotland 10 years ago. And of course, only a few years later, they came within 5% of winning an independence referendum. And politics is all about momentum, and the momentum is with the independence movement.
Plaid Cymru and Labour have worked together in the past. Could another coalition be on the cards?
We're not prepared to concede any other possibility than surging support, not just for the independence movement, but for Plaid Cymru. If young people in particular are supporting independence and Plaid Cymru in unprecedented numbers, if they turn out to vote, then I think that we are looking at the possibility of a historic result for Plaid Cymru and for Wales in this election. That's the prize. I'm keeping my eye on that prize. Every bit of my energy is focused on that.
Plaid clearly don't want to talk about possible coalitions just yet, but they might have to soon.
We've worked with other parties in the Senedd throughout the history of devolution. The current government that's just ending had a Liberal Democrat minister and a minister who is an independent member of the Senedd. We've always worked across party lines where other progressive parties can agree on a programme for government. And that's always been the way I approach it. I am not interested at all in political fixes. If we need to work with other parties, let's see if we can have a progressive programme for a progressive nation.
This is an election full of uncertainty, with 7 UKIP seats up for grabs and 16 and 17-year-olds voting for the first time in Wales. And if the result is inconclusive, which it may well be, that uncertainty could continue for some time after as well.